Okay, this is a drone shot from the location where I found approximately 500 items that appear to be Indian artifacts. It's isolated in the middle of the woods. It's a sand pit, and it's approximately 1/4 mile from the Grand River. Of the 500 items that I found, they're all very primitive in appearance and design, and I suspect they're from a pre-Clovis type occupation. Sadly, the archaeologists from this area or in the community do not support my enthusiasm. They stated that all my finds are insignificant and are GEOFACTS at best. Okay, starting with the first group, as you see, it's kind of a unique collection. They're made up of hard stone. None of these particular points or tools are made of chert, flint, obsidian, the common rocks you see in tool making. But they all share a common characteristic. They're all about the same size, but what's really unique, they all have a concave or notched out base, and they all resemble a typical projectile point. Most of them are blunted at the point. They don't have the sharp point. But again, they've been rolling around in sand for 10, 12, 13,000 years, so I wouldn't expect them to be sharp. But here's the general size. So if you analyze or study these objects up close, they all appear to have the same design and size as a projectile point. However, they're thicker and much more blunted and obviously made of a different material. But again, there's so many of these that look very similar in size and design, but just a different type of rock for a lot of the items. Many of them on close inspection exhibit evidence of pecking and grinding. So if you look really close under a magnifying glass, you'll see signs of which I think is some type of human intervention manipulation. Now on this particular tool, it doesn't look like a whole lot. It looks like a conglomerate rock, but it does have the notches on both sides, similar to a typical artifact where it was hafted. And there's also a notch at the base point. In this example, I'm just showing a comparison with a regular arrowhead or knife, blade, whatever we have here. But you see the notching. This group here represents the most common type of items I found in that area. And I have no idea what they are, but there's a very common pattern. They all seem to resemble each other. And again, it'd just be hard to imagine that this is something created by nature, since there's so much in similar between these items. And with these items here, they all appear to be tools. They're very similar to some of the other archaeological finds I've had, being scrapers or some type of tool for removing flesh from a hide or whatnot. Here's another group of tools that share a common design, and they're all made of chert and hard stone. But they all have a blunted point at the tip and a very, very defined notch at the base. Okay, in this shot I just isolated 3 of them. Again, showing the notch at the base point. This is something they all share in common. The one on the right here has some definite signs of some flint knapping. And then let's just do a close-up of this point, which is notched at the base with some evidence of working. It's chert. This one is also a chert point. And it's not sharp. It's been modified by the sand, but look at the concave base again. And just another shot of them grouped together. It's odd the similarities I'm seeing in these patterns. Okay, this tool is made out of chert and it shows the concave base point, but around the edges we see some evidence of flint knapping, chert knapping. Obvious there's been some work to it. It's very sharp all the way around. I found this tool about approximately 2 to 3 feet below the surface. So I had to dig a little bit to find this. But again, if you notice, the edge is very sharp. It's a very defined edge. This tool here, I found it about 2 feet digging in the sand pit. And it's a pretty small item, not much larger than a quarter. I see some evidence of worked edges, and it comes to a point with a concave base. I'm not sure what the material is. It's a very hard stone, but it looks like a small projectile point. So the general design appears consistent with the high-low point, a little bit more primitive, but has that general design. Okay, this item here appears to be a drill point. Unfortunately, the tip is broken. It is a typical chert or flint type material. And I compared it to an existing drill point. It's very similar at the base. And if you look at the edges, it's very obvious this has been worked by some type of tool. It's definitely an artifact. Okay, here's another group of tools that I believe to be artifacts. Specifically, the bottom left one there is what I think is a Kirk point. It's got a very fine, delicate edge. Very obvious that this is some type of projectile point. Probably early or mid-archaic period. Show you a couple of views of it. Okay, this item here appears to be made out of jasper. Appears to be a knife blade. Very sharp edge on the bottom. So I'll show you here. It looks like it was deliberately designed and sharpened. This item looks like a typical rock. Usually wouldn't pick something up like this, but I've seen some evidence of working on the sides. It's notched on both sides, as you can see. And it comes to a dull point. But you see a groove in the base. And then compared to this item I found, the tip is almost identical. So the odds of this being just a rock are just improbable. If you think of this item being hafted in some type of a wood mallet or something, it makes more sense. And you can really see the commonality in the design of the two items. But the question most people have is, what would these items be used for? And I would speculate they're used to remove marrow from a bone or grind nuts and seeds or something like that. So this item appears to be a hammerstone of some sort. There's an obvious groove at the base all the way around the rock. And it's similar to the groove at the rock at the top, which is a definite artifact. There's a groove all the way around. It's a little bit deeper, but same type of characteristics. And here's another example of two rocks I have compared side by side that show, they're very different rocks, but they show very similar features at the tip, where it looks like it was designed where some flakes were removed and they come to kind of a point that resembles a Phillips screwdriver. So there's some design that's involved in creating these tools. Now this particular item looks like a projectile point, and you can see the working, or the evidence of working on this side. It's not made out of flint or chert, it's made out of a slate type material. So this is a blunt object I found about 2 feet in the ground. Both sides, as you can see, show evidence of a portion removed. And it's similar to what you would see in a fluting type, perhaps Clovis technology. So very intentional groove removed from both sides. Here's some more shots of the tools or items that I found that all share very common and similar characteristics in their design, whether it's notched at the base point or coming to a tip, or just really a common theme of tools. And I've literally found over 500 of these type of items in the same location. And with the similarity in design, it just makes me think there was some intent to these items, or some thought behind it. Okay, this item here appears to be some sort of a knife or scraping tool. It's got a very defined sharp edge at the bottom there, and I'll show you the verse on a close-up. And it's a very hard stone, not flint or chert, but again, it's hard stone. Okay, this part's a little bit even more abstract, but these items are rocks. Obviously, they seem to resemble birds. I believe them to be effigies. Again, they're very primitive, but I see a replicated pattern over and over again. So I'm going to go through these shots, and I'll try to show a front and back. And again, they look much better under a magnifying glass. It's hard to do them justice on a photo or a video, but let me just show you a couple shots here. This guy is made out of flint, appears to have an eye gouged out in the appropriate spot where you would expect to see an eye. And this is a different group that all seem to have a bird-like appearance, whether it's just a head or the full body. Upon inspection, they do have a definite design look to them. A couple more shots here. Okay, this guy appears to have a beak at the top and some obvious engraved feathers, or things that look like feathers to me, both sides. Strongly appear like a bird, but these type of items I don't even pull out to show the experts because they would be adamant that they're absolutely nothing and simply a figment of my imagination. But when I see so many in the same location, I have to assume that they have to be something. Anyways, there's a very common pattern amongst all these items I've found. The archaeological community unfortunately does not embrace or even support my theory, and they seem to shake me off like a bad case of fleas, but there's just been a tremendous amount of resistance to even suggest or speculate these are artifacts. I, however, disagree and believe these items represent a very primitive culture, possibly a Clovis, pre-Clovis, even early archaic period. So thanks for watching.